Welcome to the Bucher and Friends podcast, co-starring 10-year NFL veteran and Super Bowl champion, Will Blackman.
Manning from the end zone. He throws, and a deflect away, and it is picked off by Will Blackman, the former Giant.
Tim Dwight watches it hit, bounces, picks it up at the 10, slips a defender, fumbles the football, it's up for grabs, it's covered in the end zone by Will Blackman for a Green Bay touchdown!
And now, here is your host,
Let's send it over to Rick Bucher.
Rick Bucher.
Welcome to another edition of Bucher and Blackman, subsidiary of Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast Network. I'm Rick Bucher. He is Super Bowl champ Will Blackman. You can catch him on NFL Game Day live Sundays on NFL Network and on Twitter at Will Blackman. You can read my stuff on Bleacher Report and on Twitter at Rick Bucher. And you can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Bucher Friends. And if you enjoy the show, please drop us a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. Screenshot the review and tweet it to us at Bucher Friends. And you'll be entered to win some prizes from Ryan, Will, or myself. All right. It is the off season, but the Pittsburgh Steelers in particular will continue to make news. So
before we get to them, I had a situation today.
Yes.
As a parent, it's interesting. Our 4-year-old daughter, she dropped an F-bomb. Dropped an F-bomb.
Wow.
Yep. And so I pulled her aside, pulled into the office.
How old?
4.
Wow.
Okay, I pulled her into the office. I had a talk. So what word did you say? And obviously, they won't repeat it. So eventually she did say it. And I was like, where did you hear that from? She said, you, Dad.
That's tough.
What? That is tough.
Now, how often do you drop F-bombs around the house?
You know, I can. Last year, probably more than I should have. Usually, maybe to like emphasize,
Mm-hmm.
Especially like our son. He would never say anything ever. It's almost like just say it. He's gonna be curious. Don't let him be curious. Just say it. And so my thing this year was I'm not going to do that anymore. Because I looked at it as a whole, like, what, that's not cool. Regardless of what it is, I can find a better approach to emphasize.
Right.
But yeah, when she said she heard me say it, I was like, wow, dude.
So what did you do with that? Because that's and especially at 4, like there's your ability to reason with a 4-year-old or to get in depth an explanation is
she's
tough.
Very, very smart. Yeah. So I said, that's a really bad word, and Daddy shouldn't say it either. I said, so if you hear me say anything, you call me out too.
Oh, very good. Well
yeah,
done.
And she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll call you out." She will call anybody out.
The invitation.
Yeah,
Yes,
please.
Exactly.
I want to get you in trouble, Dad.
Exactly. Can I tell Mom too?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Hey, I'm sure she's gonna hear about it when she wakes up from the snap or when she listens to this.
Yeah. No, that's good.
We had to talk to her about that. My wife last year, she asked me about that. She goes, "You might need to find another approach," because I don't know how I feel about that. And I was like, you know what? She goes, it comes across like a little mean. Almost mean-spirited.
When you
if I say it, say any word.
Yeah.
And I said I totally agree with that. My thing is now if my approach to parenting them, being a father, made them not want to spend time with me, or they don't love me or hanging out with me.
Right.
If that caused that, then I'll really look at it. But that wasn't the case at all. They love me. They want to hang out with me all the time. They want to play with me no matter what. So I'm like, well, whatever I'm doing is working. That was kind of like my thing. See,
the thing for me is I always believe pretty simply, if you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. Like I can't tell them what to do if I'm not exemplifying it myself, whatever it might be. Being honest, telling the truth, being disciplined, whatever it might be. I don't believe that there are certain things that I believe you can have two standards for. The adult standard and the kids. There are certain situations.
Exactly. There are growing up standards. Yeah.
Right. You can't say, look, you can't do this because you're a kid and I can because I'm an adult.
Right.
But for the most part, in setting an example, like there are very few of those things. I could make it easier and say, and just make it a wide path, right? And say there's a lot of adult things. There are actually very few that I truly believe. Look, I might be able to do them, but do I need to do them? No. And this is, dropping F-bombs is an example. I don't need to drop F-bombs. I don't need to.
It's like an unwritten rule of society. You don't need to.
So to that end, my daughter she played in the CCS championship yesterday and lost. They lost by 2. And she actually, proud dad moment, 18 seconds left. They're down by 1. She gets fouled, goes to the free throw line, knocks down both free throws. So we're up now by 1 with 18 seconds left. They went down, the other team scored, and that was pretty much it. In any event, I had a good friend of mine who went to see her play, and he's obviously very aware of using bad language. So whenever he wants to curse, he says, sugar.
Oh my gosh.
And it is the strangest thing.
I'm like, you might as well just say it.
I'm with you. It was like, as the game was going on, it's back and forth, and somebody would miss or something bad would happen. He'd go, sugar. And I just, it sounded so strange. I was of your thinking, like, dude, just use a curse word. It's sugar just sounds wrong. It sounds almost as bad in its own way. In any event, Steelers general manager Kevin Colbert wasn't using sugar or bad words, but he had a turn of phrase that, boy, just hits the ear wrong, especially when it comes to Ben Roethlisberger. And Colbert basically said that because of Roethlisberger, his Super Bowl history, etc., said that he has 52 kids under him, quite honestly. Essentially meaning, Ben is the adult in the room and the rest of the team is beneath him. Now, first of all, I don't know that I would ever categorize a team in that fashion with anyone. I don't care if it's Tom Brady. I'm not putting Tom Brady above every other player on that team in that description. But especially Big Ben. I don't care about his Super Bowl history. I care about his history going back to last year and the year before in terms of confusion about plays and alibis. And there's, to this day in my mind, Big Ben is not the most mature player that I've ever seen. But I defer to you, or at least I want to hear your take on this. Because,
right, yeah. Well, first of all, they have 10 30-year-olds on the team. Okay?
Sure.
You got a bunch of grown men.
Just imagine how they feel about that description.
No, I know. But it goes back to what Antonio Brown said. He said that Big Ben has an owner's-like mentality.
Yeah.
And as you see, he's no different than Colbert.
Well, and as evidence of this, he's been given that mindset. Right. He's been emboldened to think that way.
Right.
Because if the GM is viewing him that way, I assume ownership is viewing him that way. Why wouldn't Big Ben view himself that way? Right.
I mean, there's been so many changes, just based off coaches alone. Constant changes. Maybe he didn't get along with this guy. Maybe he didn't get along with this guy or that guy or what have you. But no, that's tough, man, because going back to, it was last season, 2017, when he said he couldn't make any adjustments at the line.
Yeah. Yes.
Which is unbelievable. He said, when I get the call, that's the call. That's the play I got to make. I'm like, get out of here, bro. Really?
Exactly.
Right under the bus. Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like what you mean rather is right. His post-game interviews, it's not really the interviews. I never really see him. It's all on me.
Right.
I got to do better. That's not he has said that, but that's not the things you hear.
Right.
Maybe like the third or fourth interview, he'll say it. But
he even went through that period where he was flirting with retirement. And some people question, was that because he wasn't playing well, the team wasn't playing well? Again, that to me is not a reflection of maturity. Things get tough and you start looking for an exit, or you start talking about, You don't know how much longer you want to play. Like when things are tough, that's the last thing I want to hear my leader talking about. A player does that fine. But if you're putting Big Ben at the top of the hierarchy, at the top of the pyramid, then I can't have any of that. And there's just been too many instances where I look at Ben and I can appreciate his talent. I think he's an amazingly talented player. I think he's physically tough. But as you know, leadership goes a lot further than that. And to suggest with this team, just because he has a Super Bowl ring, that somehow that makes him the undisputed leader of the team, makes me question if they really understand what leadership is all about.
He has two
rings. Excuse me. But my point being, he could have 4, and my point would still stand.
Yeah, I hear you. You know, it's tough because I don't know the dynamic in that locker room. I don't know how all the personalities are. I don't know the truth. I don't know really how AB is. I don't know the things that were said behind closed doors. I don't know those things. Yeah. I have met Ben before, and he trained here a little bit where I train, and I actually help out some clients of Rep One Sports, Bruce, Ryan, Toner, and Chase. Those his agencies. So I know him just based on that. And he was pretty cool. Not no ego, none of that stuff. Just a real cool dude in general. But it's so tough to just jump right at what's going on in there when we're not in there. I know that's the media. We try to have a hypothesis and guess and all these kind of things of what we think going on. But I don't know. It's interesting. Because I've been in certain teams where for example, when I was in, and this is actually going to go to the point you asked me about earlier. Players where Father Time was tapping on their shoulders. When I was in Green Bay with the whole Brett Favre deal, and his whole beef was, it had nothing to do with the players. It had nothing to do with the team. His whole beef was with upstairs. It was with McCarthy and Ted Thompson, of them ready to move on and give Aaron Rodgers a chance.
Right.
Because we just went to the NFC Championship game, and now a dude's going to retire.
So to that end, and I wanted to get to this subject in today's podcast because largely because of LeBron James, but I wanted to get your experience in seeing it. At that time, did you think that Favre was losing something, that he wasn't the same?
I thought he was just fine.
Okay.
Now he did, I learned by playing with him that you live by the gunslinger and you die by the gunslinger. He played extremely well that year to get us to the NFC Championship game, and then he threw an out route in cover 2, and that ruined everything.
Right. But that's not necessarily age.
That's not. He was old.
That's just a mental lapse. Right. I mean, we all have brain cramps at all times, at all ages. But I'm sure you have seen guys that you have seen suddenly age, or you see the effect of age on them. And I don't know whether it's training camp, it's midway through the season, can you separate it from injury? I'm just curious, as you're playing, and maybe it's an opponent. You see one year, you see him the next year, and you go, oh, something's changed with him. He can't make that cut, or he can't make that turn, or I can stay with this guy and I'm not going all out. I don't know what it is, but I'm wondering what your experience is with that, as far as seeing somebody and you suddenly see where what they can do changes and you realize they've gone from 33 to 34.
Oh man, I remember I was in training camp with the Seahawks, 2013, and that was a loaded training camp. I mean, my goodness, in terms of talent. I mean, if you made that team, it was Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, Byron Maxwell, Brandon Browner, Walter Thurman, myself, Ron Parker. They were honest, and I remember, to get to my point, we signed Antoine Winfield as well. Every single guy who was in that training camp ended up starting somewhere, either there or somewhere else. Every defensive back. Crazy. We signed Antoine Winfield when I was there. They signed to a 1-year deal. I think it was about $5 or $6 million. And I remember just watching him. He was known for just being a real physical corner, hitting people, really quick, really athletic. And then he came in. I think he just had knee surgery, and he just never bounced back. I mean, it was crazy to watch it. I was like, wow, man, like I used to study this guy and watch him, and he just wasn't the same at all. And I think, and he knew that too, because after he got released from there, he was like, I'm not going to do this again. And he shut it down right from there.
And what was it where you saw? I mean, could you literally see a difference on how he closed?
He wasn't in shape.
Yeah,
and I know he has surgery, but still, guys find a way to come in shape, and for him not to be in the shape that he usually is, because he's a phenomenal player, man. Just unreal cornerback. I mean, there's tapes on him on how to sneak past a offensive tackle to make a tackle for loss in the backfield. I mean, the people watch cut-ups on him all day. So I remember seeing that. Yeah, that was pretty interesting. I remember I caught Isaac Bruce on his way out, and I just knew I knew the name, I knew the skill, I knew the talent. And I'm not going to say like he slowed down, because I don't want to, discredit it myself.
Sure.
But, I was able to defend him and stay with him and cover him. And, he, some plays I was like, maybe he's not as fast as I thought, but I knew he was older.
Yeah.
But, those are two situations I can think of in that case.
Yeah.
But also, too, like I'm out here training some guys for the combine, and, some veterans come back to work out with us and what have you. And you can tell on some of them, you can see the writing on the wall for them. They're just grinding and trying and not getting a shot, not getting a chance. And it's because they're past their abilities,
What is the age when it comes to NFL teams, when it comes to GMs, when it comes as far as DBs are concerned, that they look at you different? As soon as you hit 30, it's a wrap. Yeah. It's wild.
It's crazy. Soon as you could be 29 and you turn 30 next week, it is night and day.
They just completely look at you different. Just when the three of them.
Yeah. If you better because the thing is, you still have to be able to run. It's long speed. Now if you're a Pro Bowl guy, you have a strong pedigree in that regard, then sure, you're still playing at a high level. Like Charles Woodson, he won Defensive Player of the Year at age 33 years old.
Yeah.
Playing corner, but he was still playing at an extremely high level.
But that's the exception rather than the rule.
That is the exception.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Yeah.
Because I remember, there was a guy who it was. He was 28 or 29, and he got paid like 3 years, $21 million, right? And and I know I was better than that player, and I'm 32, and I signed a 2-year, $2 million deal or something like that. So I don't know. I see things like that. It's interesting. As soon as you turn 30 years old, it is a whole different ballgame. And I just saw somebody too on social media saying, gosh, somebody went up and LeBron drove when he had that monster dunk in the All-Star game. And they were like, oh man, he tweeted, and this man is 34 years old and made a dunk like that. I'm like, dude, first of all, he's 34 and he's one of the greatest athletes in the world.
Yep.
And I'm sure he has all the resources to take care of his body.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, no question about it. So people just all of a sudden assume when you're 34, there's no more jumping.
Right. Well,
you can't do it. You can't do anything.
Vince Carter has proved that otherwise. At 40, he's still getting up.
He's the exception.
He is.
I mean, I can look at somebody like, okay, there's a guy who ran track. His name is Kim Collins, and at 41, he had one of the top times in the 60 in the world.
Yeah.
At 41, Carl Lewis won long jump at 32.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No. There's exceptions. There's also,
but I think I don't want to say that's an exception. I just feel like, especially if you are evaluating a pro athlete and you're saying this man is 34 years old. I mean, I met a 34-year-old. He wasn't that. They're young. 34 is young. I don't understand that. That drives me crazy.
Yeah, well, and especially today, I feel as if the calendar mindset has to be reset, because we've seen through training, diet, conditioning, what kind of injuries you've suffered. All of that should be taken into effect. Calendar age is not necessarily a reflection. I would say with a guy like LeBron, it is doubly remarkable because he came in straight out of high school. And the wear and tear of NBA seasons is wholly different than if you play 1, 2, 3 years of college. That doesn't have the same beatdown on your body. I've long believed and felt that no matter what time, when you start in the league, you have a certain number of NBA minutes in your body before you can begin to break down. Now, LeBron has defied that in a multitude of ways. One, and part of it is because of all of the investment and the time that he's taken in taking care of his body. But the other part is that it's not a matter of, can you still have an explosive play here and there? Sure. It's whether you can do it consistently, and can you do it at both ends? Can you do all the work? Not just have that one big explosive play, a dunk in the All-Star game, but can you defend? Can you rotate? Can you do all do all that work and then take on the responsibility of game is on the line, give me the ball, and I'm going to break somebody down, getting their best, getting a set defense against me. Now do I have the requisite energy to free myself and make the shot? That's where I feel as if LeBron, for the last couple of years, has been, I don't want to say cheating the system, but he's not doing everything that he did in the past. Like when he was in Miami, he did everything. And when he went back to Cleveland, he did a lot. But he started to rely on the pieces. I saw Kobe Bryant go through the same thing. You get smarter. We're watching Russ Westbrook do this right now.
Right.
Like, utilize the pieces around you. Trust your teammates. And it's funny, like the really great players, and LeBron has been unselfish long before. He's always been a facilitator. But guys like Kobe and Russ, it's almost like they're always going to bet on themselves until they get to a point where they realize, I can't bet on myself all the time anymore because I just don't have the requisite energy and endurance to play at that level for that many minutes.
I think with Russell, I think that he does. I think he's just sick of losing right now. And that he finally has someone who, in his mind, can match his intensity. And he's comfortable.
Yeah.
Like it's almost, it's funny. It reminds me of like when I met my wife, Shauna. Okay. Just dating. I was real personal. I liked my own space. I just like to be to myself. So living with somebody or what have you just wasn't going to work, and until I met Shauna, it was just an instant connection where I felt like I grew up with that person, where I was like, if she went in my stuff in my drawer or whatever, like, go ahead. I felt nothing. She wanted to be my business. I felt nothing. It was just comfortable.
Right.
I think Russ found his Shauna on the court.
See, I wonder how much of that is, and certainly KD and Paul George aren't the same, but I can't help but feel that his appreciation for Paul, like Russ got there after KD. The team was already KD's. Russ came in, wanted to prove who he was, and did, but he was never going to leapfrog KD. Now it became, and it's a little bit like Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. LeBron coming to Miami, it was still Dwayne Wade's team.
Exactly. That's a good point.
Until Dwayne Wade said, LeBron, I need you to take this team over. I'm at a point now where I need you to be more, and I will make room for you to be more. It's not a perfect comparison in that, as you said, here's the thing. Russ has gone through.
It is not a perfect comparison because D-Wade, he had a ring already.
Sure. But he was also at an age where clearly his game was falling off. I do think that Russ has had a couple of injuries, and I don't know that whether it's he's smarter or whether he doesn't want to suffer any more injuries. He's not playing with the wild abandon that he once did. He still plays with a tremendous amount of energy. And this is where it's kind of difficult to read. And actually, I'm planning on going to Oklahoma City because this is one thing I see. I see a completely different Russ Westbrook. And I don't know whether it's because he's married and he has kids or because KD is out and he had a chance to do it all by himself like Kobe did when Shaq was gone. And he was carrying it, and they were getting to the playoffs, but that's all they were doing. And he realized, I need more, and I need to be able to utilize what I have around. I don't know what it is, but Russ has clearly, and I know he'd probably hate this description, he's mellowed in some ways. Like he's tempered the fire. And right. I think it in a good way, but nonetheless, I see a different guy.
Yeah. I think it helps too that Paul George is from close by.
Yes. Well, yeah. Yeah. And just think how much it meant to Russ after KD said, no, I don't want to stay here and play with you anymore. I'm leaving. And Paul George has a chance to go wherever he wants.
To go to LA.
And says
everyone thought LA. I want to go LeBron.
Yes.
Everyone thought LeBron.
And he says, I want to stay here and play with you. I can't think of anything. And I saw it the other night when they beat Utah and Russ fouled out and Paul hit the game winner. And the celebration between those two, Russ coming out onto the court and the mutual appreciation between those two, I swear was greater and more genuine than I ever saw between him and KD.
That's why I think it's something else. I think it goes beyond the court. There had to be something else. I almost wonder if maybe Russell was there when Paul George got hurt in the Olympics or when on the men's team, Mm-hmm. Maybe something like that happened because, like you said, their relationship is very, very genuine, man. It's not even, they really enjoy playing for each other and playing together. So
yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, one of the elements that wasn't taken into account, and this is where the NBA keeps trying to skew things so that the small markets have an advantage, and they've tried to do it financially. But one of the things that worked for OKC is that, well, Paul George is from LA. He's from Palmdale, which is not quite the same as being from LA. And
it's not the same. They're an hour and a half.
Yeah, well,
Russ is from Long Beach, right?
Yeah, but it's not
right. I get
LA
it.
proper,
I get it. Yeah,
right?
I get it.
And the other part is that Paul George really is kind of a country kid in some ways. He loves to fish, and he's going to find more of that.
Well, that's probably why he went to Fresno, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's some stories as to why he went to Fresno, but
yeah, we're good. We're good.
At any rate, yeah. Look, he's started his career in Indiana, went to Fresno State. It's not like a guy who, grew up in New York City, went to UCLA, and OKC is. I mean, that Carmelo's like that. Carmelo never really felt good in Denver. Loved being in New York. From Baltimore originally, just kind of big city, East Coast. It's kind of what Melo was about. That's the environment he was most comfortable in. That really didn't apply to Paul George. Right. I wonder for you, and I feel as if in basketball, having to play both ways and the energy that's exerted by any one player and how it can impact the game. Did you ever play with somebody who you saw was still getting it done, but they had to get it done in a more conservative fashion? Like they started having to play smarter, or they had to pick their spots as opposed to just going all out. I don't even know if you can do that at the NFL level for the most part. I would think it depends on position a little bit. But I wonder if you saw guys that kind of got crafty and you could tell, okay, he can't do it all the time, but if allowed to pick his spots, he can still be pretty damn effective.
Yeah, I think this player, the guy I'm thinking of is Donald Driver, the receiver for the Packers. He wasn't really declining, he couldn't do it anymore. It was just the fact that his role was decreasing because, we drafted Greg Jennings. And then Greg got a bigger role. And then we drafted Jordy Nelson. And then we drafted James Jones. And then we drafted Jermichael Finley. I mean, we're getting all these dudes, and the ball couldn't go around so much. And then we had Ryan Grant, who ran for 1,000 in 2008. So from Donald Driver being on the cover of Sports Illustrated, having his own little section that I still remember reading, it was like agility drills. And I remember I cut it out and put it on my wall, to being Brett's guy. And then all of a sudden we just keep drafting wideout after wideout. And I mean, Greg was a second round pick. Jordy was a second round pick, but he was our first pick. And I think James was a third round pick. And so his role decreased, but he knew every position and he knew how to stay durable. And he still ended up, when it was crunch time, we needed a first down or we needed a big catch.
Yeah.
He was able to do that still.
Yeah. I mean, he had a long, healthy career, all with Green Bay.
Right.
Which is pretty amazing. See, this is what I wonder is when you get to a certain age, how you structure your contract. Like if you're smart, at 28, are you trying to get that 4-year contract that pushes you past 30? And can you structure it in a way where if they're looking at you in a different light at post 30, where they'll keep you as opposed to you have a really big number and they go, you're not worth it at this. It's an aspect of football that you don't deal with in basketball or baseball for that matter, because the deals are guaranteed. But football is a different animal. I wonder whether you negotiate in a different way in how your contract is structured.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'm looking at Donald's numbers right here, and he still got it done. I just named, 4 Pro Bowl guys?
Yeah.
Still got it done. Look at that, 1,000 yards. And all these guys were there then, But not to mention, he did have 2 unbelievable quarterbacks get him the ball on the money.
Fair.
And but no, he got to get open, got to catch the ball. He made his plays.
Well, but here's the thing too. I mean, you go from being targeted over 1,000 times, like 6 straight seasons, to suddenly cut that in half. Yep. And yet his yards per reception and his TDs barely dropped off, if at all. I mean, that's extraordinary efficiency when you're used, because you guys, as a wide receiver, and this applies to every sport.
You need your ops, man. You got to get hot. You got to get hot, bro.
Yes, and when you're used to that, you're not worried about, okay, I missed one or I dropped one or whatever, because I got 8 or 9 more coming to me. But when it suddenly becomes, I'm only going to be targeted like 3 or 4 times, it's a entirely different deal. You have to make the most out of it. And if you haven't had to play that way, it's a skill in and of itself.
Well, you're right. Yeah, everything in half. Yards cut in half. Targets cut in half. Receptions cut in half. But still, 6 TDs.
Yeah, that's pretty damn impressive. And for LeBron, I mean, LeBron. I watched him the other night against the Rockets. I was there, and I apologize. I flew in. I flew out. I did not see. I was in LA, and I didn't come see you. But I literally came in. I had meetings. I had the game, and I flew out first thing the next morning.
So, yeah, that's still like an hour for me. So you're good.
Okay. I will be back down and we will get together. That said, I went to the game and I'm watching LeBron early on. And I've seen this with a lot of guys. They kind of test things out. You think, okay, this guy really is coasting at this point. I mean, you can see it. They're trying to get other guys involved. And then fourth quarter came and LeBron is clearing everybody out and he's asking for the ball and he's going. And this is how I am amazed and impressed by LeBron, because LeBron grew in to a guy who would take over the game at the end of games. He wasn't always like that. Had a weird lack of confidence when it came to doing that. Now it's for a regular season game, and he's been in almost every circumstance.
He's
and he's had
for
success.
A regular season.
I mean, well, because there are still times there are still moments, and I go back to Kyrie hitting
the last game, the Cleveland Warrior game. I mean,
yes.
Series.
Yes,
I just got into a beef with with the player about this on Twitter. He was like, they had the little graphic about, I guess game-winning shots or buzzer beaters,
clutch shots,
yeah, clutch shots. Yeah, Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron,
right?
And he would, he's diehard LeBron fan.
Yep.
And I was like, I said, I guarantee you, he's gonna pass it. And he was like, yeah, right. Yeah. And I found the video where literally he's holding the ball like a water polo guy, and threw it to George Hill. Especially when you hear the announcer saying, "Okay, if I'm LeBron, I'm taking the last shot. Let's go."
Yeah.
That's what you think.
I just had this. I had a similar. I was answering a question actually. Guy was put on Twitter, asked me why do teams go to ISO? Why do they do something so predictable at the end of games? And I said because NBA defenses are so good that if you try to run a play, they will force the shot to somebody you don't want player. Taking it.
Right.
If you run ISO, at least you have the ball in your best player's hands or the best matchup. You get to choose. And you'll live and die with that. And then somebody else asked, well, why don't you play ISO all game? And I was like, well, the Houston Rockets are trying that. When they don't get early offense, that's what they do. They go to ISO. And the problem is that your players can wear down over the course of a season and it can become a little bit predictable. And so that's why you don't do it all game and you don't do it all season long. You don't do it
all game because the guy's not hot.
Yeah. And you look for ways to manufacture other points, but when you get to the end of a game, everything's on the line. I'm going to take my best, or I'm going to take my best matchup, and I'm going to live and die with what they're able to get done. And that's what's always driven me crazy with LeBron, not just because he's so good, but physically he's always got an advantage. Between his handle and his size and his speed, he should always be able to get a quality shot. And it's always driven me crazy when people say, he's making the right basketball play. He's passing it to somebody whose role is not to take that shot with the game on the line. Yeah, Kyle Korver is a great shooter, but you introduce him to the Cleveland Cavaliers for the first time, and he's playing, whether it's in an NBA Finals or to go to the NBA Finals. Look, if it's a wide open shot, okay, maybe. But if all things are equal and LeBron has a look, I want him taking that shot. And there's also, as you know, there's a responsibility that comes with living and dying, like having to face the media afterwards, having to deal with the failure that comes with, I'm going to wear that. I'm going to carry that. And I'm going to go do it again the next game. It takes a certain mental toughness that as a great player, you should have developed, as opposed to, I'm going to put that responsibility on somebody else. Now, Jordan, the great, passing it to Steve Kerr, but Jordan ultimately was like,
he got doubled on that play.
He got doubled. He got doubled. He got doubled on it. Steve Kerr is one of the all-time great catch and shoot players
ever,
and you are asking him to shoot a 16-footer. Right. And in that case, it's so easy, I make that exception.
Yeah, because Jordan was going to take the last shot, and they trapped him.
Exactly.
And he's like, there's one of the greatest shooters in the history of NBA. I'm going to pass him the ball.
LeBron did this the other night again, which I just find fascinating. James Harden had 5 fouls on him. They ran a switch, and Harden is on him. And the crowd, the LA crowd knows it. They're like, go at him, because they're thinking, he's got 5 fouls. He doesn't want to foul out. He can't defend you. Never mind attacking. Somebody comes to help. Now he never, LeBron never attacked. He's looking over his shoulder, looking to pass the ball. And that is what I just find mind-boggling at times when we talk about how smart LeBron is and his IQ when it comes to basketball. There's a lot of things to support that notion. But then there's times where he does things and that just leave me scratching my head as to saying,
if there's to nitpick anything, it is definitely key moment situational basketball.
Yeah.
That's just, if you want to say anything.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah. On that. And I hate nitpicking that because there's so many other things about LeBron that are admirable and impressive. I mean, there's far more other things.
Listen, I nitpick because he should never lose.
Yeah.
He's the biggest mismatch.
Yeah.
No one can guard him. No one should ever be able to guard that man.
Yep.
He should be undefeated in the finals because he is that good and that talented. So I feel like the expectations, especially from me, are so beyond belief where it's like something that I see. I'm like, man, how come he can't see that?
Yes. Here's the other thing. I think people misunderstand when we nitpick, and I get the sense that you and I are the same on this, is that it's really a form of respect. It's a form of, I see how good you are. I see how gifted you are. I see how talented you are. Why are you not imposing that on the game? Because I feel as if you should. And here's the thing. If he like that, the whole percentage of, look at all the, last 10-second shots that LeBron has made and he shoots a high percentage. Yeah, but how many of those did he pass up? Like he's taking them when they are a high percentage. Dude, I need you taking them all the time. Jordan was never going to turn down that opportunity. And so for me, it's a matter of, this is how much I believe in what you're capable of doing. I don't understand why you're not doing it all the time.
Listen, we had a pickup basketball game the other day, and I was furious that I didn't take the reins, man. I'm like, I want to play. I'm having fun with everybody, but we lost. And I'm like, damn, dude, our last 3 points, I really should have just took over. I should have.
Yeah.
So then last week, I got my new Kobe's.
Oh.
I got my Mamba Rage Nikes, and I was shooting the lights out.
There you go.
Not messing around.
All right. All right. That does it for this episode of Bucher and Blackman, subsidiary of Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast Network. In our next podcast, the subject that we did not get to, and I still haven't figured out exactly how we want to tackle this.
I know how to get to it.
The Robert Kraft story?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So tomorrow we're going to talk Robert Kraft tomorrow. We're going to talk Joe Flacco tomorrow.
Yes.
We got some stuff for tomorrow.
We got some stuff. Also, in the meantime, before we give you a podcast, our next podcast, go to bucherandfriends.com, fill out the survey, and you will be eligible to win a $50 gift card to Amazon. This is the last day. This is the last time we're going to announce this on the show, and then we're going to give away the $50. So get in, leave your email address, and we'll be able to put you or make you eligible for that. And hopefully you will win. And if not, we'll do it again. All right. For Will, for me, as always, thanks for listening.